I'm going to let you in on a little Rabbi secret. You may have already figured this out. I love Valentine's Day. I know, it's technically Saint Valentine's Day, and it's not a Jewish holiday, but I have very happy childhood memories of crafting my classmates' cards with pink paper and glitter, taking home bundles of Valentines, scrutinizing them for hidden crushes or proclamations of being my BFF, and of course relishing countless chocolate and candy hearts that filled my Valentine box to overflowing, and just generally celebrating love. I felt a little badly that my children completely missed out on all the Valentine's fun because they went to a Jewish day school, and officially speaking, Jews don't celebrate. But I'm going a little nostalgic because we have a very notable confluence of Valentine's Day with this week's Torah portion. Tonight, in Parshat Yitro, the Israelites receive the greatest token of God's love in the entire Torah. I'll show you. It's the 10 Commandments. Okay. I know, not what you were expecting, was it? But God's love language for Jews, it's mitzvot. Now, Judaism has been maligned for centuries as a religion of law, as juxtaposed against Christianity, which positioned itself as the religion of love. But tonight, I want to underscore how in Judaism, law is love. Did you pay attention to the Ahava Rabbah prayer, which means God's great love, that we read tonight, right before the Shema? In its most literal translation, it read, "Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts." Our tradition says that God's greatest love, the Ahava Rabbah, is shown through God's law. And of course, our tradition does provide many other examples of God's love that are more emotional and tender. We say, Adonai, Adonai, God is merciful and compassionate, endlessly patient, slow to anger. God calls us an Am Segulah, a treasured people, and expresses our special relationship as chosen. But it's clear that God's love isn't only shown through grace and emotional support, but can be found in mitzvot and moral teachings. Now, I didn't fully appreciate what this love was all about until I became a parent. Now, giving hugs, nourishing meals to my children, tucking them in at night, that was the easy part. I knew that soft, fuzzy, and warm love alone was not sufficient without some rules and boundaries. That being a loving parent entailed other responsibilities to my children, not only for their heart, but for their safety of body and mind, the growth of their souls, which meant putting some boundaries on their urges. It couldn't just be unlimited screen time and candy for dinner. It required reminders for their protection. Ride your bike with a helmet. No, you cannot kill your brother. It meant teaching them that love sometimes entails sacrifice, forgiveness, and always, always generosity. And through that kind of love, the selfless, forgiving kind, we expand our souls. So now, if you think of God as the ultimate parent, who is also responsible for our emotional health, our physical safety, our spiritual well-being, we now understand that God loved us so much that God had to give us our own rules and commandments. Don't kill your brother, or anyone else for that matter. Don't lie. Keep the Sabbath, and the Sabbath will keep you. Honor your parents. Don't covet what your neighbor has. These are, of course, just the top 10, the tip of the iceberg. We have 613. But together, these laws entail God's love letter to the Israelites. Because when you really love someone, you don't just indulge their every desire. You help them become the best people they can be. You teach them that they are responsible not just to themselves, but to others as well. You instruct them on how to build decent societies with safeguards for the most vulnerable who are among us. That is what the Torah teaches. Because at its core, Judaism is a religion of love, the kind of love that you can command with laws. Now, when God says, love your neighbor as yourself, which is the central command in the very center of the Torah, God isn't actually commanding us to feel love for our neighbor necessarily, but to act with love for our neighbor. Now, God knows better than to just leave that feeling of love up to chance. That love as an emotion can be very fickle or very fleeting. So God spells out what that love looks like in the world. It means care for the widow, the orphaned, and the poor. Pay wages on time. Don't steal. Free the captive. Don't put a stumbling block before the blind. Leave the corners of your field for the hungry. Judge people fairly. The list goes on and on. God legislated the ways that we should be kind and decent and generous and fair with one another. This is the foundation of a righteous, moral, and kind community. We need to remember that love for our neighbor and our strangers right now, which means we have to make sure we uphold the laws that protect the vulnerable, that check the powerful, and help us create a more just society. So I hope I've given you enough evidence to prove that this prop was not just a gimmick, that the law given at Sinai in Parshat Yitro is in fact the greatest symbol of God's love for us. But how are we supposed to show our love back? It's a two-way street. This could be answered in the prayer that follows the Shema, the Ve'ahavta. As we heard, that prayer, Ahava Rabbah, before the Shema is about how God loves us so much that God gave us Torah and mitzvot and laws and precepts. So the prayer after the Shema, Ve'ahavta, is how we love God back with all our hearts, with all our souls, with all our might. We do so by upholding the laws, by teaching them to our children, by keeping these ethics on our lips, by thinking of them when we lie down and when we rise up. Doing mitzvot is a way that Jews embody our love for God, but also for all of humanity. And God gave us these laws as a great act of love, because love is not just a feeling, it is action in the world. So let us put love, only love, into the world.